On today's podcast, we're going to discuss the phrase, a place for everything and everything in its place. So stay tuned. Welcome to Warehouse Safety Tips. You can find the show notes to each episode, links to information mentioned on the podcast, the social media platforms we're on, and anything else related to the podcast at warehousesafetytips.com. Now, if you're a seasoned podcast listener, this podcast is going to be different from most you listen to. It's based around exactly what the name implies, warehouse safety tips. And since the people in this industry are busy, we know that time is money and each episode will be as short and to the point as possible. And now, with all of that out of the way, let's get to the podcast. Have you ever been asked to do a job only to find the work area completely unorganized? Or had the before mentioned situation straightened it out and then returned to find it in disarray once again? It's extremely frustrating, but even more so dangerous, unorganized, unproductive, and all around unprofessional, all of which can cost time, money, and potentially lives. In the 5S methodology, step number 2 is straighten. When you only have 5 steps, or 6 if you include safety, that should tell you just how important of a step it is and that it shouldn't be ignored. In one of our previous podcasts, we spoke about the reasons that safety floor markings and signs exist in the workplace. Many times they exist because the same situation happened enough that it justified creating permanent guidelines for avoiding it going forward. Most usually something that was detrimental to safety, organization, or productivity is involved. Before moving on, here's a word from one of our sponsors. If you've ever been to or worked in a warehouse, you know just how important safety is to both management and staff. It's almost impossible to go 10 steps without seeing safety tape, angles, signs, and/or safety products. It's these items that show us how to be safe and avoid danger in the workplace. And if you're looking for the best products to make this happen, look no further than Mighty Line. Mighty Line floor signs and floor markings offer the best industrial products out there. We're proud to have Mighty Line as the official floor sign and floor marking company for the Warehouse Safety Tips podcast and site. Go to mightylinetape.com/safety tips to request a sample pack of their incredible safety signs and floor markings. Now back to the podcast. In the first part of this podcast, we spoke about unorganized, unsafe, and/or unproductive work areas and the safety floor markings and signs that are created because of them. Have you ever been fortunate enough to experience the opposite of that situation? It's very satisfying to see a work area or a facility where the tools have outlines for where they should be returned to. There are detailed instructions on how a certain work area or task should be organized or completed. And safety floor markings and signs let you know exactly where to walk, store products, operate equipment, and stay safe, productive, and organized. Enforcement of the above-mentioned bullets save time and money. Of course, these floor safety markings and signs are only as good as the individuals paying attention to and enforcing them. From outside visitors and contracts all the way up to the owners of a facility and everybody in between. It's our responsibility to ourselves and everyone around to pay attention and to enforce all the rules and regulations of a facility. Assuring there's a place for everything and everything in its place is the best way to start. We hope you enjoyed this episode of Warehouse Safety Tips. If you visit warehousesafetytips.com, you'll find the show notes for this episode and access to all of our blog posts, previous podcasts, advertiser information, and much more. Thank you for listening to Warehouse Safety Tips and have a safe day.